Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Hissam Fareed. I hope all of you are doing good in life. I welcome you to lecture number 4 of our powerful series on educational psychology. In this lecture, as you can see, we are going to talk about lesson planning. So, in this lecture, we will talk about lesson planning, what it is, how important it is in modern education. To give you a quick comment on the importance of lesson planning, I would say that it is really, really important because modern education cannot be even imagined without lesson planning. So, the purpose of lesson planning is to maximize learning. In fact, any lecture that we record and upload on YouTube under the umbrella term, under the title of educational psychology, is majorly about maximizing learning. Okay, the entire field of educational psychology is about maximizing learning in a friendly and conducive environment. That is the ultimate purpose of it. So, whatever topic we discuss here under the title educational psychology is going to serve that purpose, no other purpose but solely that purpose. Okay, so we are going to talk about lesson planning in this session. If you see, I have written I have written just one compound terms to systematic organization under the definition or under lesson planning, okay, which is an important term in the entire definition of lesson planning. And I can safely claim that once you understand this term systematic organization in the definition of lesson planning, you have understood the whole concept of lesson planning. That much I can bet. Okay, so what is the complete definition of lesson planning? Let me lay down that definition of lesson planning before you people. Well, so it is a systematic organization of instructional process. That is lesson planning. Now, what is instructional process? Instructional process is the way a teacher delivers a lesson, a topic before students in the classroom. That is instructional process. So we can also replace it with a simpler term, which is topic or a lesson. Okay, so if we look at the name of the topic, it is lesson planning, and from that we can also deduce the definition of this topic lesson planning, that it is about planning a lesson. Now, what is meant by that? That means systematic organization of a lesson. Okay, so this term systematic organization is very important to understand. Now, let us begin with understanding this term. If you see, I have highlighted several terms under systematic organization, four things, and I believe these four things actually form the pillar of the term systematic organization. Without these four terms, which could also be referred to as the components of systematic organization, we cannot understand systematic organization. Now, first, let us start with the objectives. Before we start with objective, for example, let's take a topic which is a noun. For example, as a teacher, I am going to teach noun to a certain class. Now, I have to plan my lecture on noun because that is the demand of modern education. Before modern approaches uh, towards education, when we look at traditional approaches, we see that there was no such thing. A teacher would just come to a class and randomly present a lecture on a certain topic before students. without caring about the objectives, introduction, body conclusion, teaching methodology, and assessment. Okay, that was a very generic methodology, generic instructional process. But now that is no more to be the case, because instructional process is very much defined, is very much strategic now in order to maximize learning in a conducive and friendly environment, as I put it before in the beginning of this lecture. So I am going to deliver a lecture on noun. So I have to systematically organize this lecture on noun. How would I do that? That I would do by understanding what what comes under the heading of systematic organization. So these are the four pillars which come under the term systematic organization. Number one is objective. That is, I should be very clear about the objectives that I want to achieve from this lecture on noun. It includes, what am I going to teach? Number one, what am I expecting from the students to learn? In what way will this lecture on noun benefit students? So these are the objectives. Once I set the objectives of my lecture on noun, I'll go to the second stage, which is from A to noun. I know this phrase looks a little confusing, but from that I mean the whole lecture, starting with introduction and ending with conclusion. So how would I introduce this topic noun? I may start with questions, I may start with explaining noun, I may start with a short story. Okay, this is the introductory part of the lecture, and then I would go proceed towards the body section, which will include explanation and examples to make the students understand the very concept of noun. And then after I'm finished, after I'm done with the body section, I will move towards the conclusion section, where I will conclude, okay, my lecture on noun. But I would try to do so in the most effective way, so as to inculcate that in the minds of students. Then, after that, I will also decide the teaching methodology for my lecture. Is it going to be an instructional one in which I just give a lecture on noun without taking any input from the students, or would it be an interactive one in which I would engage students with myself? Okay, by the way, teaching methodology is a broad topic which we will also discuss in some lecture, maybe in lecture 5 or in lecture 6. But to give you a hint, teaching methodology here means that a teacher decides which teaching method he or she is going to opt while delivering a lecture. In this case, in the case of me as a teacher delivering a lecture on noun, I would decide whether my approach is going to be an instructional one or an interactive one. And then assessment. Assessment means that at the end of this lecture, I would ask students in order to assess, in order to judge their entire understanding, their understanding of noun, of this topic noun. So this is called a systematic organization of a lesson of a topic, and I demonstrated it to you people with example, which was about a noun. Well, so this is lesson planning. Again, I'm going to tell you in I'm going to give you a quick overview of what I just said, what we just discussed in lesson planning. So lesson planning in simple terms is actually a planning about a lesson. About a planning is to how a lesson is to be delivered in order to maximize learning in a conducive and friendly environment. Now, that planning involves systematic organization of a lesson. Now, what is systematic organization? These four pillars that I just discussed with you people, that I just shared with you people. Now, what are the benefits of lesson planning? Let us see the benefits of lesson planning. I have mentioned three benefits of lesson planning. Now, number one is clarity. Number two is time management, and number three is structured learning. Now, once a teacher systematically organize a lecture, clarity will follow suit. Clarity is naturally to come. That is very understandable. Okay, because the teacher is clear about what he or she is going to teach, and what way is he going to teach it, what are the objectives that he or she expects to achieve as a result of that lecture, and he or she is also clear about how to assess, judge, evaluate the overall understanding of students about the topic that he or she is going to deliver in the classroom. So with that will naturally come clarity, because these are the areas which one needs to tick in order to be clear about what one wants to do. And in the field of education, in the field of teaching, I told you that how to plan a lesson using the technique of systematic organization, structured organization. And in structured organization, you are already aware of the tools, of the pillars, of the components that come under it. Now, clarity. With clarity, so as a result of clarity, time management is also very much related, I would say. I don't think I can separate these two benefits of lesson planning, because what is time management? It is to manage time to deliver. In the context of teaching, in the context of delivering, giving a lecture in the classroom, time management is all about giving a lecture in due time. Okay, so as not to beat around the bush. Okay, so as to stay on the mark, so as to stay on the point. Now, when there is clarity about objectives, about how to go about the topic from conclusion, from introduction to conclusion, when there is clarity about teaching methodology and also evaluation of students about that very topic, what is going to happen is that a teacher will also keep in mind the time in which he or she is going to carry out all these things, that is objectives, from lecture from introduction to conclusion, teaching methodology and evaluation. Are you getting me? And then structured learning, it is also structured learning. Okay, very smooth. Okay, there is a structure that that lesson planning follows, that is objective, then from A to Z, from teaching methodology and assessment. Okay, that is what is called structure. So it is not random, as I told you that in traditional learning, and in traditional learning approach, we see that a teacher would come to the class and deliver a lecture without any objectives in mind, without having a clear map of how to go about a certain topic from introduction to conclusion, without having much clarity about teaching methodology and then also assessment. Okay, and so a lot of things would miss in the middle. But that is no more the case. That is no longer the case. So that also leads to structured learning. With that, I'm going to conclude this session. I hope you people have gained some insight from this lecture. Uh, Thank you very much for your precious time. See you in the next lecture. Take good care of yourself.